back to another video. I'm Eric, and long-time viewers of the channel will probably have worked out by now that there is a bit of a common theme to my interests in the hobby, and that stems around the London Underground and London Transport. Now, if you cast your mind back to March, I believe it was last year, Rapido Trains got in touch with me and kindly allowed me to announce their new 00 gauge locomotive, which to my surprise was Metropolitan #1, the Metropolitan Railway E Class. So you will see in the shot there are two boxes in front of me. That can only mean one thing, that Met 1 is finally here. So let's have a look. So yeah, in front of me we've got two very nice looking Rapido Trains UK boxes. Nice silhouette on the side there, and very smart they are too. And we've gone for Met 1 in its more current preserved livery in sound fitted version, and we've also gone for L48 in London Transport livery, and that is DC. So let's get them out and have a look. Well, at long last then, here they are on the layout, and as said before, I've got Metropolitan 1 and London Transport L48, and together don't they look stunning? I'll have to get the other two when time allows to complete the collection of all four, because I'm sure these are going to become a very sought after locomotive down the line. So as I'm sure you'll agree, I think Rapido have really captured the E-Class excellently. I think the livery is stunning. They've got the paint colour just right in my opinion, and it also nicely matches previous London Transport releases from other manufacturers such as Bachmann Pannier tanks and the like, so they won't look out of place on your layout. And I genuinely just think they are super smart. We've got a nice bit of separately fitted detail on the top, all this pipe work, safety valves and the like. They look like they've been fitted to a good standard. There's no horrendous glue marks over the model, so I'm fairly happy with that. It all looks pretty good. The cab, you can't really see it in this shot. However, there is a lot of detail in the cab and it's all finely picked out. Of course, all that we are lacking is some cab crew. However, I believe Model U have developed a set of crew for this locomotive, so it'd be worth checking them out if you're ordering one of these to save it looking so bare and empty. So that might be something for you. Underneath, the model is looking pretty good. It's nice to see wiper pickups on this. I do like these because they are just the tried and tested reliable method, so that's always nice. You've got an NEM socket each end. Of course, I have taken the front end out just because I think it looks a bit nicer without. But yeah, you've got all-wheel pickup, so you should have no problems with loco cutting out over points and stalling, providing your track is nice and clean. The loco's also come with a detail bag, which has doors, air pipes. It's also got trip cocks for fitting to the loco, as well as a few other bits and bobs. So if you want to detail up the front end, then you can to your heart's content. That'll keep you busy for a little while. I believe the locos also have a speaker pre-fitted, so if like me you buy a DC version such as my L48, then I should be able to simply stick a sound chip in it and away it goes. We'll have to see about that one in a bit, because of course I want to run this on my layout, and I believe I've got a spare chip, hence I only went for one sound fitted. Talking of sound, here is the function list in case you're wondering. So if you want to have a good look at that, then make sure to pause the video and you can read all those. But it's got your usual stuff that you would expect, and it's got a few little extra sort of gimmicky bits on there as well, such as stand behind the yellow line announcements from LT and bits and bobs, as well as mind the gap, which you've got to have on an LT engine. But I would recommend having a good look in the booklet. It is quite nice. It's got a bit of history about the engine. It's got how to take it apart to fit a chip. It's got some nice info in there, and it's well put together. It's obviously themed nicely with the box, and it's all presented quite smart. Well, so far so good then. I'm perfectly happy at the minute from what I've seen. I suppose the best thing for us to do now is get one of them on the track and see how it performs. So let's get the first of the models on the track then and get it running so it can have a nice opportunity to run in, and then hopefully we can start playing with the sound. And away it goes. See you in about half an hour. So while Met 1 quite happily trundles around in the background, running in, I thought we'd take a look at L48 because, as I mentioned earlier, I did buy a DC version as well, which is this one. So obviously we want to look at getting a chip in there so we can run both together. So I'll chuck that upside down in my ESU cradle. I recommend getting one if you can. And you want to turn to page 7 in the instruction manual, and that shows you how to fit a DCC decoder. Of course, you don't want to break anything, so I would recommend having a good read, but it does look fairly easy. So you need to take the front coupling out, which will reveal a screw down here, and then you've got a screw on either side of the chassis to take out, and then the chassis should lift away from the body. So as mentioned, the front screw that sits underneath the coupling needs to come out. And then you've got a screw either side of the chassis, which is next to the rear bogie. So we'll take that one out. I have to leave that one in there because it doesn't want to come. And we've got one behind here as well. Luckily, these ESU trays have got a magnetic strip in the middle, so you don't lose all your screws. So them two can stay there, and in theory the chassis, there we go, pulls straight away from the body there. And that reveals the body, plenty of space in there for fitting extra little bits and bobs if needs be, I guess. The motor looks like it sits right under the smoke box, basically, just behind. So that would be why most of the weight is over the driving wheels. We've got some nice die cast bits under the body there to weigh it down as well. And then if I just try not to lose that screw, there it goes. Flipping it over reveals the DCC decoder socket just here. Pull that off. There's your socket for your Next 18 decoder. It should just push straight into that. And then you could, if you don't need to do anything else, refit it straight back in the body, screw it down, and away you go, like Met1 is in the background. Good timing. So just while I've got it apart, I've taken the base keeper plate off just to show you what's underneath so you don't have to. And as you can see there, you've got wiper pickups which act on the back of the wheels, and they feed down into these two sprung prongs which go on that little PCB in the middle there. You can see the driving wheels have nice metal bearings, and both wheel sets are geared to the motor rather than relying on the side rods. So that's not too bad, looks pretty good. I've got a spare Locksound V5 Micro. It's the same as the Next 18, except I've taken the harness off and it's just got the little plug there. So that should plug in like so, and that's it, ready to go. The speaker is under the PCB there, you can just about see it hiding away. It's in a cool little spot, and that's it, ready to go back in the body. Right then, both the engines have been running for quite a while now after sound fitting L48. I don't actually have a sound file for this yet, hence it's running in silent mode. And just while I chat away, obviously I haven't turned the sound on Met1. But yeah, running quite happily. I'm very impressed by them. I've not cleaned my track with my CMX for about a week and a half, something like that. So considering the track is a little bit dirty, it doesn't seem to mind too much. You get the odd hiccup here and there, but end of the day, they are only a small, fairly lightweight locomotive, so it's to be expected. If you keep the speed up a little bit, they don't mind too much. But yeah, that's running really well. I've got some of the new Rapido private owner wagons behind it, as well as a single backman one in the centre, which is an exclusive from Asia. So it's just a nice little train. And yeah, as I say, it's trundling around quite well. Met1 is currently under the tunnel, so I can't show you it. But Met1 should pop out here in a sec. And again, that's also running really nicely. No real problems. And generally, I'm very pleased with the pair of them. There's Met1 coming around now. So Met1 is now pulling a rake of 4 CDC design Ashbury coaches, which obviously is very fitting. It's managing that, no problem. I mean, they are quite lightweight coaches. They're only 3D printed, so they don't obviously weigh much. But in any case, it's running around quite happily. So yeah, it's good to see. So I think we should probably have a play with the sound functions on Met1 and show you what you're getting yourself into. So with Metropolitan 1 in the shop then, let's go through a few of the sound functions just to give you an idea of what you're getting with the sound fitted model. So maybe it'll help you decide whether you're going for sound fitted or for DC only. So to start off with, obviously we've got function 1 activated, which activates your drive sounds, and of course static just sort of simmering away as you can hear in the background. You've got a good playable whistle on function 3, which has a couple of different start and end points, and of course you can play it for as long as you want. So this is nice because it means that the whistle isn't always the same every time you press it. So you've got a few sort of variables in there. So if I give you a few examples. So there you go, see we've got quite a few different sort of options with the whistle. As you can hear now, there are a few random sounds as well, such as playing the injector sounds, so when they're filling the boiler up, or some coal shoveling every now and again. They do play at random, which is nice. Function 4 also has a short whistle. Function 5, you've got a guard's right away whistle on the platform, so if you press that, you get the whistle as expected, but then when you also deselect 5, you get a right away whistle from the loco. So that's a nice little feature. We've got a heavy train mode, which is of course while you're running along, it will basically increase the sort of volume of the chuff rate to simulate that the engine's working hard. You've got a train set mode on F7, which I believe is to quicken up the response of the engine as if you're running it on DC, so it runs kind of similar to that. F8, you've got your usual mind the gap please, which you've got to have with any LT engine, right? And while on that subject, F23 has an alternate version. So that's the old Oswald Lawrence version. Function 9 is coal shoveling, which we've obviously heard it play at random. Function 10 is a coasting mode, so if you're coming into the station, for example, and you don't want it to continue chuffing away, you would press function 10 and the loco would come to a stand nice and gently, with it being nice and quiet as it should. 11 is the injectors, so that's to pump water into the boiler. Again, it's another random sound that also plays periodically. Function 12 is the blower, used to create more steam pressure. So in a station you might leave that on for a bit. 13 is the safety valve. So if you've got too much pressure, the safety valve will open and let some of that steam pressure out of the boiler. So again, that'll just play probably when you're in a station, for example. Function 14, we've got cylinder drain cocks, which work at low speed when you're setting off from a stand, so I'll show you those in a second. 15 is to turn the vacuum brake ejector off. You can hear that hiss in the background. I believe the ejector is using steam pressure to create pressure for the braking system, as far as I'm aware, but please quote me on that if I am wrong. So you can hear that turns that off. 16, we've got filling the water tank up. So if you're under a water tower, you might want to use that sound. 17, we've got flange squill and track creaking, which again is at low speed only, like the drain cocks. 18 is the sound fader, so it drops the sound level down. 19 is a shunt mode, which basically sharpens up the response of the engine as if you're working in a yard, makes it a bit easier for you. Function 20 is a couple and uncouple sound. Pretty standard. 21 and 22, we've got a pair of announcements. So you've got please stand behind the yellow line and then train 150 during 1 minute.
Ladies and gentlemen, Heritage Train 150 should be here in approximately 1 minute.
So I'll just get the loco to pull away a couple of times so that you can hear it pulling away as standard and then pulling away with the cylinder drains on. So let's do that again, but this time with function 14 activated, and this will give you an idea what the cylinder drains sound like. And there you see they deactivate above a certain speed step. Function 6, as mentioned, is heavy train mode, so that will simulate the engine working harder. You'll hear the increase in volume if I press it now. And if I depress it again, deactivate it. So there you go. And last but not least, function 17 for flange squeal. Again, it only works at low speed. L48 is happily trundling around. It's got a nice train made up of 3 Metropolitan wagons. We've got the Rapido 3 private owner wagons, which are Metropolitan Railway themed. So we've got obviously the Met one and then 2 Metropolitan private owner wagons. Then an LPTV brake van on the back. So it's a nice realistic sort of length train, and that copes no problem. So I've put Met 1 on the outside track now, and we're doing a bit of a haulage test because I did have a few concerns with the weight of the engine and how much it could pull. Now it is coping at the minute with 7 Hornby Mark II carriages and an Oxford Rail Mark III carriage chucked on the end, and that is it at its limit. With the Mark III on the end, it does slip when it's going around the curves a little bit, but it can just about keep going. You take the Mark III off, it's fine. So you do seven Hornby coaches, no problem, I think, on a flat level railway like mine. The problem comes when you've got something that doesn't have as free rolling axles as the Hornby Mark IIs do, such as my Steam on the Met 1989 rake, which uses a Hornby 4VEP and a Bachmann Mark 1. Now, the Mark 1's fine, but the 4VEP has quite a bit of friction because it doesn't have proper axle bearings. So if I want to run a prototypical train, it won't actually pull it. So what I'm going to have to do is, because these are usually top and tailed, I'm going to have to speed match Met 1 with my pannier tank, and then they can both work in top and tail to pull that train around. Whereas I had previously taken the gears out of my pannier tank to use with my Saracidans, and that would pull the whole rake round no problem at all. So I suppose it's just the Achilles heel of the type of engine, because of course you've only got those 2 drive axles at the front. One thing I have noticed with Met 1 is that the lining on the wheels isn't put on there correctly. It's actually over to one side, so it gives this sort of elliptical look when the wheels are turning. So it kind of does distract the eye a little bit when it's going round, but if you stand far enough away, hopefully you won't notice it. But fingers crossed, it's just my one that has this, and hopefully the others are all nice and straight and as they should be. So I suppose we should probably get a few running shots, and then after that we'll sum up what my thoughts are overall. So I've had a good chance to play with these two locos now, give them a good run in and a test run on a couple of different trains. And just to sum up my final thoughts and opinions then, I think they're stunning. I must congratulate Rapido on getting this model out there. It's obviously a very niche market, London Underground, and without people taking the risk like they have done, it will never progress. So hopefully these could lead on to more things in the future. I've also already seen people asking for coaches and the like, so you never know. You got to keep asking the manufacturers and keep those fingers crossed and see what happens. But as for the model itself, stunning livery, the colours pretty much bob on, I think, and they really do capture the E-Class properly nice. I'm very, very pleased, and they'll complement my range of LT steam that I've already got very nicely. Running wise, they do run nice and smooth, don't seem to have too many issues. Obviously they have got the standard kind of things that you would expect from a loco of this size. They probably could do with a stay alive. I would have liked to see one factory fitted, but it's not the end of the world. They are quite lightweight, so if you're planning on running any heavy trains, I think you're going to struggle. They did cope with 6 Mark II coaches, which isn't too bad. Bear in mind my layout though is completely flat. When I added the 7th coach on the back, it struggled quite a bit around some of the curves, which I did expect, to be honest. But it didn't do too bad for the size of the engine. Bear in mind you've only got these 2 axles at the front actually driving. So yeah, basically a bit more weight, a stay alive, and I think it'd be pretty good. The only other thing is I did struggle when I had the body off to get the cab and bunker separate from the chassis. I wanted to take it apart just to see what it was like for space in there for future, potentially adding a stay alive and adding crew, but I couldn't seem to get it open. So I'll have to revisit that and see what happens. But yeah, something to kind of think about. But if not, you've got that little bit of space which was in the side of the tanks where you might be able to fit something. But yeah, as for me, I'm going to continue to enjoy these. I think I'll fit some basic headlamps onto Metropolitan 1 certainly, and maybe just something simple on L48, and then pretty much just continue to enjoy them. So hopefully they prove to be reliable in the long term, and if they do, they will of course form a very important part of my layout. So let me know what you think about yours if you've ordered one. If you haven't, I would suggest you do, because these, with the kind of niche market they're in, I'm not sure if there'll be a second run or not. They might end up being one of those things that end up on eBay for a silly amount of money eventually. So if you can afford one, they're a very pretty engine. And of course, this has been all around the country doing various tours and bits and bobs when it was in ticket. So fingers crossed we still see the real one come out again one day in the future up at Quainton. Hopefully they manage to get somewhere with the restoration on it eventually. But it's nice that we can have one in miniature. So once again, thank you for watching the video. Hopefully you can take something from it. Again, it's all just my opinion, and fingers crossed you'll be here for the next one. So once again, thank you, Rapido, and I will see all of you guys watching again soon. Take care.